I'd left my chair and everything out from when I was taking a little sunshine in, and all that got blown around. And okay, it's trying to connect to YouTube now. Let's see.
Okay. Yeah, it just notified me that it's streaming.
Okay.
It should be good. But yeah, that's good that you guys are, safe and everything's good.
That got blown around and okay, it's trying to connect to YouTube now. Let's see.
Okay. Yeah, it just notified me that it's streaming.
Okay. All right.
Good.
So it's a little delay for me.
Yeah, I can hear it. Yeah.
That's good that you guys are, safe and everything's good. I'm trying to says it's private. So it's a little try to make it says it's private, so
so it's not going through?
Okay. All right. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, it's kind of, there's this delay, and oh, I see. One of my friends says that they see us. Can you also hear us, Amy? So, oh gosh, I don't know what I'm doing, but I guess it's working.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I don't really know much about like live streaming and all of that stuff.
Obviously, I don't either. I need to. Well, I wanted to introduce you first of all for anybody joining, but I mean, there's 5 people right now, so that's good. There's Kathy Peters. I know Kathy. Hey, Kathy. Let me see what I wanted to. I was going to introduce you by reading your bio on YouTube, because I think it's perfect, because it's exactly like I met Hannah, y'all, on Twitter, and just immediately just loved her light. Just tell like she's completely light filled, and that she really likes to put out to the world light. There is no darkness. Anytime I go to Hannah's page, I'm not seeing like politics or anything negative. I'm seeing like something that makes me feel better. And so anyway, yeah, sometimes I'll be up in the middle of the night, can't sleep. And, it's good to have those kind of positive souls online that you can go to and, kind of keep you, if you're like wrestling with something, kind of get you back to the now.
That makes me feel very honored, because I really value your perception of the world as well. And it's just so nice to be able to kind of establish connections with people who have like vibration and like mindsets. I've actually only been on Twitter for maybe a few months. I actually got on there for work, and I only recently kind of started like utilizing it for my content creation. But in the recent months, I've been meeting some just really awesome people. I mean, it's such a great space when you fill it with the right mindsets and with the right people. Like you were saying, like there's a lot of people focused on the politics and, all of the negative like illusions and the stuff that's kind of meant to keep us distracted. So it's always nice to come into contact with other people who can kind of see through all of that.
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of people will say, oh, I don't do Twitter. That place is all negative. And I'm like, well, no, you don't have to invite the negative in. You don't have to open the door to negative people in your home. So, it's, make it your space.
Mm-hmm.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, everyone meet Hannah. On her bio on YouTube, she says, I am just another fractal of cosmic consciousness, channeling esoteric wisdom, and teaching about the wonders of spirituality as a science. My content consists of educational vlogs regarding occult wisdom and mystery school teachings, breaking them down so that they can be easily understood and applied in order to create a better world that benefits you and the rest of humanity. Time is precious, so I truly thank you for taking the time to watch my content and bring me into your Earth experience, Madame DeVoe. And I just think that's so perfect. It's just like you. So, and then also on, and I will be posting links in a little bit, or maybe you can post links if you want to how people can contact you for readings and that. She's got your website's called madamedevoe.com, right?
Yeah, madamedevoe.com. And I have, tarot card readings. I have personal subliminal tapes that I make for people, utilizing affirmations that I record. And I'm also working on getting up a even longer kind of overnight affirmation tape that's recorded in the client's voice. So it further tricks the subconscious into believing the affirmations as like their own thoughts. So that's the current mission right now. There's a lot of stuff I'm working on, but like that's kind of the main focus, like with my website.
How long have you been doing all this kind of stuff? This work, this healing work? I've been into mysticism for a very long time. I guess since I was maybe about 13 or 14. My mom is very into like the spiritual, specifically like the Eastern styles of spirituality with yoga, and the kind of more traditional forms of meditation and stuff like that. And then my dad was more into the kind of more Western occultism, like the Rosicrucians and Wicca and paganism. So I got this really nice blend of those two perceptions of spirituality. And it was kind of nice because they almost fit together like a puzzle piece, and they like fed into each other and kind of created this really nice foundation for me to create a life path for myself that is in service to the world and in service to spirit specifically. So as far as like my tarot card channel and everything, and now it's more of an educational channel, that started in 2019, I think was when I started my YouTube channel. And it was totally on a whim. I had no idea what I wanted to make. I had no idea like what kind of content I wanted to put out. But I was very into tarot card reading, and I really enjoyed it. And I was doing it a lot like for fun. And I don't know, it just kind of popped in my mind one day. Like I had a camera. I was really into photography. So something was just like, why don't you just make a YouTube video? And it's kind of just been, on a roll ever since. I knew I wanted to create educational content because I've always had such a passion for teaching, and for like enlightening other people, and just seeing that light bulb go off for people is just like, it's cathartic for me. Like nothing fills me more with joy than to see somebody go like, aha, like that makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of liberation in that, and it literally just fills my being to be able to kind of free people in a way, and like help free their mind, and help them kind of deepen their own experience and come to their own conclusions of what it means to be a human. So generally over time, my content kind of evolved to become more educational because I felt this kind of increased push to, just enlighten people and help make people aware of the truths of the world. So the tarot card reading was kind of almost like a platform, in a way, and it was like setting the foundation because it's very popular, and it's very popular on YouTube. It's very popular on TikTok. It's a great way to get a lot of views very quickly. So what I received was that the tarot card channel and the videos of tarot card readings was almost kind of like ushering in all of the people who were meant to perceive of my teachings. It was kind of like setting the foundation for me to be able to come forth and put out these messages. So that's kind of what it's been since then, is just focusing more on the educational aspect and a little bit less on the readings themselves, primarily because it's like the teach a man to fish analogy. Like I would rather, instead of kind of helping people here and there, like just kind of figure out their own lives, like put out the resources for them to be able to help themselves, because we're all healers and everybody can do, a lot of what these healers are doing, anybody can do. Like we all have that capability within us.
And I think a lot of people tend to get really reliant on the external, whether that's a reader or whether that's a healer or anything. So that's kind of part of why I started putting out educational content, was to create that space for people to enlighten themselves so that they could become their own inner guru, their own teacher and their own healer.
I say that all the time, be your own guru.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was actually something that they taught us in yoga, because I'm actually certified to teach yoga. I did a 200-hour yoga teacher training session. I said yoga teacher training session. And one of the things that they taught us was that the true guru lies within. Like, all of us have an inner teacher. We all have that inner light within us. There's no need for the external. And it's kind of like Ram Dass says, we're all just walking each other home at the end of the day. There's no like high person that everybody's just supposed to look to, and that person's like going to be the one person that saves everything and fixes everything. We're like torch holders, we're just kind of lighting the torch for everybody so that they can go forth and light their own torches, and so on and so forth. And it creates this kind of ripple effect of awakening that is going to be the thing that completely and totally changes the world. I believe we're destined for world peace. I think that's eventually going to come. Mm-hmm. I think we're on the path to that. And I just want to do my part as a citizen of humanity to help my fellow humans, and help us all get to that point.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's why we're all here. I really believe that. Totally believe that. And today is, the Lion's Gate. So it is August 8th. It's a big day. I've always thought of it, and it's like bigger than Christmas or Easter, or, for the religious people. To me, this is like the biggest day.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know more about it than I do. I watched one of your videos on portals, and you explain so many different, like, everything is a portal. There are portals, all different kinds of portals, but this day is a portal. And mm-hmm. Can you kind of explain that just a little?
Yeah, I'd be happy to elaborate. So the Lion's Gate portal has kind of shifted in meaning over the course of its existence. And I think now, in the more modern era, you typically get more of the perception of like, oh, like, this is a manifestation day, and like you can use this day to like get what you want and get your desires and all of that stuff. But it's actually kind of far removed from what its original meaning and purpose was. So the Lion's Gate portal was really meant to be an activation point for souls who have been initiated into these states of consciousness, so that they can pass through this portal and come out on the other side with more wisdom and, higher states of consciousness. It's almost like an initiation process. And I think that's why certain people manifest things, because with those activations and with the initiation of spirit comes the physical materialization of, our manifestations. Mm-hmm. So the descent and journey into self-discovery, in my opinion, is the best way to manifest anything you want, because spirit will always reward you for doing the inner work. And I think that that's kind of what the Lion's Gate portal is more so symbolizing, is like this energy of like, you've done the work, you've committed to yourself and learned all of these lessons over the course of this period of time. Here's the doorway for you to be able to pass to the next level. So originally, within Egyptian culture specifically, the Lion's Gate portal was actually, it was kind of like technology in a strange way. It was like organic technology. And I make this point a lot in my videos. Nature is the original technology, and, the cosmos and everything around us is tech, but it's not necessarily like automatic the way that like machinery is. It's got sentience. So this technology is living, it's alive, and it's existing with us, and we're a part of it. I mean, our bodies are a magnificent form of technology. Uh-huh. And the way that this portal was originally meant to work was, it was meant to be almost like an opening of a Stargate portal for deceased souls to be able to pass and almost like ascend to the next sphere of consciousness, wherever they're meant to go. And that's kind of why you see a lot of like Lion's Gate portal stuff in reference to like the pyramids, and why the pyramids line up with Orion's belt, and why the sun actually aligns with Sirius, because that alignment is creating a portal for souls to be able to pass through. And the Egyptians actually talk about it. It's in the etymology itself, soul. It's, it's where our soul comes from. It's the source of our soul. In the Latin and Romantic languages, you hear the sun being referred to as soul. And this is because that's where our soul will return once we've undergone the process of initiation through the different earth spheres. And if one cannot pass their initiation process, then they're cycled back. And that's kind of getting into reincarnation and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But the Lion's Gate portal was really meant to be a passage of initiation, as opposed to like a portal for just like simply manifesting desires. I mean, it works for that too. But the thing is like, we're manifesting all the time. Like we can pretty much get anything we want at any point in time. We really don't need the cosmos to manifest, because we are already a very powerful portal of energy that's manifesting our desired experience, or not, on the day-to-day. We're manifesting whatever we're choosing, whatever we're actively choosing on the day-to-day.
Right. I've actually, recently really just like, I was with a friend in North Georgia, and I needed to be back in Athens, which is like an hour and a half drive, by a certain time. We were running out of time. And I just looked at her and I said, you know what? I'm just going to make time stop. And I ended up feeling like I had 5 extra hours. I just went I went in the opposite direction of home and rode up into the hills and enjoyed the day and took pictures of cows, picked flowers, just enjoyed all the scenery. It was a beautiful day. And I still made it back. And I still was able to do, I think I had to put together 5 flower arrangements for an order I had, and had them delivered to this person's house by 8 o'clock. And I look back and I go, how did I do that? Well, I stopped time.
Yes. Yeah. Time is absolutely an illusion. It's probably one of the biggest illusions that humanity is facing. There was a famous saying, it's like, time is one of the biggest lies that's ever been told to humanity. It's one of the biggest illusions that has been created. And I've had similar experiences. I actually just had an experience the other day where I thought I was going to be late to something. And then I was caught up in that fear thinking and that lack mindset. And then I stopped myself and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to be fine. Like, I'm going to be on time and I'm going to make it happen. I don't know how it's going to happen. I just know I'm going to be on time. And I ended up getting to that location. Originally, it was showing me getting there 5 minutes late or something like that. I think that's what Maps was saying. I actually ended up getting there 5 minutes early after the fact. Like, Maps had just magnificently come up with this new route. It was like, oh, we're going to take you on a detour. I took the detour, which ended up making me early. So it was just really crazy. I mean, the universe will always take you down the path of least resistance as long as you just allow.
Wow.
Yes, exactly. And that process of flow actually stops time in a really strange way. When you come into the present moment, and this is really what 5D is when people are referring to like 5D consciousness, it's really just the state of being where you're purely in the present moment. You're not concerned about the future. You're not concerned about the past. You just know that you're here. Everything is fine. Everything is in a perfect state of flow. And when you do that, you literally step outside of linear time and you're able to kind of manipulate events according to that awareness of, I would say, interdimensionality. And I don't mean manipulate like in a controlling or negative type of way. I mean, you can really shift experiences in your life at the drop of a hat with just your mindset and just with that state of awareness and that state of flow.
I love that. Rosie says, when I have a time pressure, I always say I have more than enough time. Yeah. That's good. Smart.
That's really awesome. Yeah. The key is just to flip thoughts and like replace that fear thinking with the opposite. And that's what I've always told people. Affirmations are key. They really are for manifestation of anything. Affirming does such a powerful, powerful job. Mm-hmm. There's that saying of like, sticks and stones won't break my bones, but words will never hurt me, or sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I think people really have forgotten the power of words. And I think we see that online, like with all of the negativity and like with a lot of the hatred that's just projected online. You have a lot of people who are just generally very mean-spirited and don't think about what they say. They're just kind of word vomiting. And I think that society has really lost touch with the importance of verbal affirmation and how much our words are. I mean, they're literally manipulating matter. Like our words are being expressed, almost like dropping a rock in a pool of water. You see that ripple effect. That same thing is happening whenever we express ourselves. There's a vibrational ripple effect that happens that affects the quantum field. And the quantum field begins to reflect whatever is being put out, because the universe is created by sound. I mean, it's literally just oscillating vibrations of sound. So when you speak something into your reality, you're literally manipulating the matter with your words. We're very powerful beings. And you know, it's like in regards to time specifically, you know, affirmations are key, like flipping that thought and just saying, you know, I'm always on time or I'm always early. That will do more than the worrying will. If anything, the worrying will make you late. You know, it'll take you to the reality where whatever reality you're worried about.
Mm-hmm. It's so true. Whoops. I lost sound. I don't know if you can hear me, but I lost sound.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, no. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Now I've got it back now. I don't know where it went for a minute. Sorry.
Yeah, technology has been so weird today.
It's been weird. Oh, hate it. But yeah, we were supposed to have done this through YouTube, everyone. And I had made that link and everything and couldn't get it to work. So then we had to switch over to Zoom and anyway, but here we are.
I'm just glad that we're here. It ended up working out anyway.
Yeah.
I've never done live streams on YouTube before. So I have no idea how any of it works. I'm usually just somebody who like sets up my camera. I do the talking and then I do post editing and all of that. I actually get kind of nervous with these because I'm just like, oh my gosh, like what if I mess up?
Can't edit them, right? We're just flowing.
Yeah, but this is very nice. This is very nice.
I want to say thank you to Michelle Murphy. She says, hi, Angie, happy belated birthday. Yeah, I turned 50 on July 25th.
Oh my God, happy belated.
Yeah, so I always love this time of year, of course, because I'm a Leo, and I always feel like I always tell people that my birthday is like New Year's Eve.
Yeah, it is. It technically is, because I think somebody was saying that this is the astrological new year. It's not the astrological new year. There was somebody that was referring to the Lionsgate as almost like a new year.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure.
And also, this is the time I'm a gardener. And so this is also the time where it's time to harvest all the tomatoes and start a different, vegetable, new seeds.
Yeah, because they all grow in seasons.
Mm-hmm.
That's really interesting. That's something I really want to get more into is just growing crops specifically. I love plants. Plants are like my favorite thing ever. I've always been a huge green thumb. And I talk about them a lot on my channel. Actually, one of my biggest passions and one of the biggest missions in my life, in a more long-term perception, is actually deriving energy for mechanical power from the life force of plants. Because I 100% think that we have the solution to the energy crisis flowing throughout our being, but flowing throughout living beings of all kinds. And, one of my biggest missions is to bring forth a kind of technology that would utilize the prana of plants in a way that doesn't harm them. It would almost encourage people to have more plants around and kind of solve the problem of like cutting down, all the trees and all of that. Yeah. It's a whole rabbit hole, but yeah.
Anytime I feel depleted, and sometimes even just if I'm, a little anxious, having anxiety, I will just go out and I really do hug trees or sit by a tree and put my back up against it. And and I'm immediately, whenever I just sit with it for a while and talk to my trees, I will feel better. I mean, they're very, very healing.
They are. They love us. They really do love us. They love humans. And I think trees actually do, and plants in general, I think they get impacted. I think there's an impact that happens when a person doesn't interact with them. Because I'm the same. I love hugging trees. I'll sing to them. I'll like just do all kinds of stuff. I'll hug them. I'll climb them and sit in them for a little while. Like I just love interacting with nature and plants. And one of the things that a tree told me, because sometimes they'll talk to me. I know that sounds really like out there.
Nope, I believe it. People that watch my channel know that I believe this.
Sometimes they talk to me and they're always so just so beautifully kind and loving, and they really do love us so much. And I think that they almost feel like humanity doesn't love them enough. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like we've been conditioned to think that they're, just these automatic beings, and it's just like, oh, they're just growing and there's no sentience to them. There's no intelligence to these life forms, but they are highly, highly intelligent, arguably more intelligent than we are. And just in a way that like we can't even comprehend intelligence. I think that like humanity has kind of gotten to this point where our egos have grown so big that we see these alternate life forms, and we think because we've created these concrete structures and we've created this kind of more modern society, this more quote unquote advanced society, that somehow we're the ones who are the most intelligent. But when you look at like spiritual doctrine and spiritual principle, simplicity is really where true intelligence lies, like in the simplicity of everything. And I specifically kind of want to make this point, like with dolphins in particular, and like marine life and marine mammals, because dolphins are actually kind of on par with humans as far as like their intelligence goes. So materialist science quantifies intelligence through brain to body ratio. So the size of an animal's brain in comparison to its body is what determines the level of intelligence of that animal, according to science. And the next animal on, I guess, the spectrum, aside from humans, is dolphins. But I honestly think that they're more intelligent than us. And I think that they have a deeper connection to source because they don't have all of this conditioning. I think if anything, the structures that we've created and the level of, and there's good sides to it too. Oh, kitties. There's good sides to it too, but I think generally the structure of society that we've created has separated us from that intelligence, from that true essence of intelligence. I'm not really talking about like academia, academic intelligence, what people are learning in school or learning from, what science is telling them. I'm talking about like that true deep wisdom that we all have within us. I think a lot of people are disconnected from that. And I think if anything, that makes us lower on the intelligence spectrum than even some of these perceived less intelligent animals,
100% agree. So does Amy Boyd. She's 100, dolphin. Yeah. So true. I mean, you can feel it anytime, like I'm going on my friend's boat and the dolphins are nearby, and there's just I cannot imagine ever being in that setting and not just being mesmerized by those beautiful, beautiful souls, because they're right there. They're coming up to say hello. You're not even feeding them or anything, but they just want to be near you. And yeah.
I think that they're quite fascinated by humans too. And one of the channelings that I've received about dolphins in particular is that they want to interact with humans. And I think there's a lot of wisdom to be gained from them because, again, they don't have that same level of deprogramming of programming that humans have cultivated over the course of centuries, thousands of years, and hell, even longer, They have this kind of deep marine wisdom that I think they could share with a lot of us. I think they could potentially even give us information on Atlantis. I know that all of this sounds absolutely crazy, but
not to me, it doesn't. I finally have somebody to talk to.
I'll casually like catch up with friends, and then they're just like, oh, like, what are you doing? And I'm like, yeah, I'm researching Atlantis, researching the telepathic ability of dolphins. And they're just like, okay. Just conversations with Hannah. But yeah, like I think
that's me. That's how it is with me and my friends too. It's like, oh, okay. Like,
there they go again. You know what I mean? At this point, I don't even take it personal. But I was saying, like, I think that there's a lot of wisdom to be gained from these creatures when we learn how to develop the ability to talk to them, which we will. And I think we will. And I don't think it's going to utilize inorganic tech the way that like a lot of modern science thinks it is. Like they want to build all of these different like chips and whatever that'll allow us to like talk to different creatures and whatever. I think that we have a telepathic connection to all life. And I think that if we just worked with that muscle collectively, I think we could definitely open up an organic pathway of communication between those creatures and us. And I think there's a lot of wisdom to be gained from them. Like, I don't know why, but every time I channel about the dolphins and about marine life, whales, all of that, there's something within my soul that always calls them the great teachers of the ocean, the great teachers of the sea, are marine mammals. You know, just as humans are kind of like the great teachers of the earth, the great caretakers of the earth, the marine mammals are the great caretakers and the great teachers of the sea. So when we can harmonize that and unionize those great masters and those great teachers, I mean, I think that we could really coexist and create a better world. But the problem is that like people invalidate their level of intelligence because we can't communicate with them, because they don't speak like us. They don't, you know, act like us. People degrade their level of consciousness and they kind of invalidate it. So I think once we start to take a lot of this stuff seriously, and as occult science begins to kind of make its rise in the mainstream, I do think we're going to make some extremely profound discoveries that are going to absolutely blow people's minds. The sky's the limit. It really is.
Or is it?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many places we can go as far as like science goes, and you know, specifically when we integrate science with spirit, because they're two sides of the same coin. You know, they're not meant to be existent without each other. They're meant to be unified. They're essentially two different languages, religion and science, trying to dissect the same things. They're asking the same questions. They're just going about different methods and different languages to kind of express those ideas and to navigate those questions and to kind of figure out what those questions mean. They're both trying to figure out whether or not there's a God. You know, they're asking these fundamental questions like, where do we come from? How did life come about? So when you unify those things, you can really, really dive deep into the truth of what real science is, which is occult science and spiritual science. It's not this like materialist mumbo jumbo of like, you know, what we have here is all there is. And the only thing that exists is anything that we can quantify with our limited tools available today. That's so limited. That's such a limited perception. You know, it boggles my mind that people can even exist with that understanding of the world.
Mine too. I find it harder and harder to go out in public.
Me too. Me too. Because it is very frustrating. It's like you can't even really have a conversation with a lot of these people because they're just so deeply ingrained in their beliefs. It's become a religion. I mean, modern science has become a religion. And it's just gotten to a point where you can't even really have a conversation with a lot of these people because they're so deeply rooted in their perceptions of the world that they won't accept anything else. And it's so polarized from what I believe, and I'm sure with what you believe as well, that it just makes it hard to even create any kind of connection, you know? But I do think that'll kind of shift. I think we're going to see more and more people begin to kind of wake up and, you know, understand that a lot of what's being pushed in the mainstream is illusion. And it's really meant to keep the masses subjected to control, ultimately.
Yes. Alternative Pope asks, what do you think of Nikola Tesla?
Oh, I mean, I think Tesla was a genius. I mean, I 100% think Tesla was a genius. It's very unfortunate that his work was almost ridiculed. I think he was a spiritual target. I mean, I think if you want my honest opinion, I think he was murked. I think he was I think that they took him out because he was a potential, almost like a loose end, and all me and my homies, we hate Thomas Edison. Okay. We don't like Thomas Edison.
I don't like him either.
Because he stole valuable information from Nikola Tesla. Mm-hmm. And he profited off of, the necessity of energy. And Nikola Tesla was attempting to make it free. And Nikola Tesla was very in connection and in unison and in harmony with a lot of the, esoteric and deeper understandings of the world. And I think he had it's really sad because his life was actually pretty sad. Like if you look at biographies of him and all of that, he actually did have a pretty hard life. And I personally think he was under spiritual attack a lot. I think he understood the more scientific side of spirituality. And I think he was more focused on his mission and his inventions more than he was focused on his self-protection and self-preservation. And I think that's why he was constantly targeted. Because the thing is when you are somebody in this space who is either presenting new ideas to people, or you're working on a project that could potentially bring, like free energy to millions of people, or create any kind of paradigm that is in conflict with the current control structure, you almost put a target on your back. And I think that it's going to kind of get worse in the coming years. Like, I think it's going to get a little bit worse before it gets better. There's been a lot of channelings I've had about witch hunts. I think that may be something we face for a short period of time. I don't know if you've ever seen Handmaid's Tale, the show.
I've seen parts of it. Yes.
It's very disturbing. It's a very disturbing show. But I personally believe there's a lot of predictive programming within that show. And I think that there's a potentiality of some sort of maybe extremist organization just taking over. I mean, our government is in a very weak spot right now. Like, we are in a very vulnerable spot as a country. So that, that raises the question of like, what could potentially happen? What could potentially happen with our government? A lot of the overtakings in history that have happened, these coups against the rulership, have always happened when the country is in shambles. Like with Hitler, he rose to power and was able to take power at almost kind of preying upon Germany's financial crisis that they were experiencing. And same thing with Vladimir Lenin in Russia. He was able to, I think it was Vladimir Lenin. He was able to take power because of the extreme poverty that people were experiencing under the Tsar's rulership. Mm-hmm. So, we're kind of seeing that same cycle happen within the current, within the current era. And
I really kind of believe in the weather targeting, and keeping certain places in poverty, keeping people in their low income, making them have to rely on the government for handouts. And anyway, Absolutely. That's another whole thing. But
no, I agree. And it's more than just handouts. I mean, it's getting to a point where it's like medical advice as well is now being relied upon from the government, just what we should do with our children, what we should do with our lives. Like, it's just slow, like the hand is slowly closing around the masses, and people don't realize it because it's so covert. These methods of control, it's not in your face. I think that the powers that be have recognized that humans don't respond well to force. We respond well to slow coercion, like putting a frog in boiling water. That analogy where you slowly turn up the heat and it doesn't realize what's happening until it's too late. I think we're kind of seeing that happen right now. It's like a slow coercion, very feminine influence where it's very dark and manipulative. And that's really more the feminine in its shadow. It's like a very shadow feminine power structure where there's a lot of lies and just manipulation and kind of tricking people, like bait and switching people into these places of being controlled. But I mean, I think that ultimately humanity will prevail and light will prevail. The thing is I like to see these events as almost kind of like a necessary evil. It's really unfortunate, but the thing is we do live in a dualistic universe with yin and yang. You know what I mean? There's the light aspect and the dark aspect of everything. And it all comes together harmoniously to be able to create the wondrous story of the human experience. You know, without the negative, we really wouldn't be able to experience the triumph of the positive experiences of the golden eras of humanity, which I do believe we will see. I think we are heading into a golden era of humanity, but I think we're still kind of in that like almost like ending phase, like the death process of the current structure where we're seeing everything fall apart. And those who are connected to themselves will always be protected. You know, connection is protection. It really is. The divine will always take care of one who is truly in touch with the heart. And we see that in specifically with the tale of Atlantis and its collapse. There were people who were aware of the fall of the society, and they were able to be intuitively guided to other places. And they migrated to other places like Egypt, and certain parts of Mexico, certain parts of South America, certain parts of Asia. You know, we see this kind of like, it's almost like a mass migration that happened back during that time. And I think we're seeing that again in the current era, where I think a lot of people are kind of seeing that there's some wonky stuff going on. And, you know, they're wanting to leave the places that are already kind of collapsing. You know, like California is a really good example. New York is another one. I only say that because I lived in Texas and there was a ton of people that were moving there. Same thing with Florida too, though. There's a ton of people moving to Florida from New York. And I think what we're seeing is that mass migration happening again. Because I think people intuitively, whether they're spiritual or not, everybody's connected to intuition, or whether, no matter what they identify as. So I think deep down people are feeling something and like they know something is going to happen. And I think a lot of people are being guided to safety from whatever collapse is going to happen. And like I said, like I don't really want to like put out fear, you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, like all of this bad stuff's going to happen. Because I don't necessarily think that like any of us will be affected. I think that the people that really need to be concerned are the unawakened masses, you know, who are still buying into, we need to trust the government. We need to, you know, give up all our rights essentially in order to be protected. I think those people are going to be the ones who really, really experience a massive upheaval. And it's just going to be at a point where, you know, the universe can't wait any longer. It always shakes us up. Like if we don't respond to stress and if we don't respond to these, you know, experiences that we're putting ourselves in where we're keeping ourselves stagnant, the universe will always force change if you don't make it yourself. So I think that's kind of what we're seeing right now is going to be this mass force of perspective, you know, for the people who are not listening, they're choosing to remain ignorant. And I don't even really want to say the word ignorant because I think that can be really just as frustrating as it is to deal with these people. I think at the end of the day, they're really just a product of manipulation. You know what I mean? They're not bad people. They're more of just unfortunate results of the failed system. You know, it's not their fault. And if anything, we should feel great pity and sympathy, you know, for them and try to be understanding. It can be really hard to do that though, when they're insulting you on the internet.
Yes.
But you know, I think Gigi Young talks about this, and some other people in the community have been talking about this a lot, is this deep, deep necessity to remain connected to the heart right now. Yes. And really, really staying true to love and picking compassion and consciously choosing compassion over fear. Yes. Because love wins.
Yeah,
always does.
That is like always just keep going inward, you know, because that is where source is. All this other on the outside is just noise. Mm-hmm. We have a question. I think it's for you. Yeah. From Caleb. He asks, saw that Hannah has music. Are some of the songs inspired by esoteric doctrine?
So I would say
your songs.
Wait, Caleb, did they have a last name?
I don't know how to pronounce it, but PFOHL. Okay.
I know who that is.
Oh, okay.
That's my boyfriend. He's probably in the other room watching my stream. Oh my gosh. But yeah, that's so funny that he has that. So he's actually probably the biggest supporter of my music. And yeah, it's been really great to have him in my life.
I'm sure he would be a supporter. I've heard some of those lyrics.
But as far as his question goes, yes, like it's 100% inspired by esoteric doctrine and just things that I've learned over the course of my life experience. I like to see my music as almost like an activation, like it's like these codes of sound, kind of like we were talking about earlier, with the power of the voice and the power of sound being able to influence the matter around it. My music does the same. So anytime I'm creating these lyrics, there's almost kind of like a trance-like state that I go into where I pull in information in the form of rhymes, in the form of lyrics, and it's meant to activate people so that when they listen, maybe they don't understand it at first, but maybe they'll see an article on the internet, or maybe they'll just happen to read a book that, kind of gives more detail into a lot of these teachings. And then they go back and listen to the song and there's something
it'll resonate. Yeah.
Yes, there's something that clicks. Mm-hmm. So my music isn't necessarily meant to resonate with everybody, but for those that are in the know, they will feel that within their soul. And I mean, I'm a healer of all kinds. I do, not just readings, but I'm also Reiki certified as well. I teach yoga. So, I mean, everything is healing for me. Like everything is a healing art. And my whole existence is literally just to be here to serve as a healer. And that includes within my music. My music is meant to be a healing force within the collective. And, one of the biggest visions that I've had of myself, like when I'm doing these visualizations for manifestation, is, myself being on this stage and there's people who are there, they're listening to my music, they're there for my concert or whatever. And at the end of the concert, I bring out singing bowls, and it's kind of like, oh, like this will be the thing to conclude this concert. If you want to stay here and bask in the energies, great. If you want to leave, that's fine. But we're going to go ahead and do a sound bowl session. So concluding every event or every show with a singing bowl session, because I really believe that my music is part of my healing path. It's part of my mission to help heal the masses and help heal the collective wound that is present within the human consciousness.
That's beautiful. I'm going to a ceremony this coming Friday on August 11th. It's a cacao ceremony, and there'll be the sound bowls, and I'm so excited. So
that sounds good. Do they probably have like organic chocolate and stuff like that, like organically made chocolate?
This is my first time going, so
that sounds really awesome.
Yep.
That sounds really, really awesome. Yeah, I love singing bowl sessions. Have you ever done one before?
No.
Oh my gosh, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. My very first one was a few years ago. Because some yoga studios will have them, you can pay like $20 and you can go do a sound bowl session. And the very first one I did, I was actually pushed out of body. Like it literally forced me out of body. Oh. And whenever the singing bowl session was done, I think that they had put an oil on my forehead, or there was something that they did that triggered me to come back. And it was like the moment that they touched my forehead or they had placed something on my forehead, it was like when that happened, I just started bawling. I came back and I just started bawling and bawling and bawling and bawling and bawling. And I think that that was the material manifestation of the healing, whatever that cathartic release was. I think it was just a material manifestation of those sound energies influencing my form.
Wow.
So I think you'll love it. I really do. I think you're going to have a great time.
People are saying, oh, it's funny. We will all go listen to your music after this.
Yeah, it's on. I'll link it. I'll link it. It's on Spotify and Apple Music and everything. If you just look up Hannah DeVoe, it should come up. I have maybe like 4 songs or 5. I think 4 or 5. I mean, it's something that I'm working on. I have a ton. I'm like very chaotic. I have a lot of like varied interests and passions and art forms and stuff.
Me too. I had someone tell me about a year ago. I was so excited because I was writing some songs and I'm trying to write a couple of different kinds of books, and I get excited about all these things, and I'm studying, and then I'm cooking, developing recipes, those kind of things too. And this person said, can't you just pick one thing? Like,
no. There's too many things to do. Like, the human experience is so vast, and there's so many amazing things that we can partake in and experience. It's like, why am I going to limit myself to one thing? You know what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense.
That's so boring.
It is. It really is. And I think that the thing is that's the way it's supposed to be. Like, we're supposed to be engaging in all of these various different experiences and passions and hobbies. But it's kind of like we've been brought up on this idea that, there's only one life path, and like, you're just supposed to fulfill this purpose, and you go work this one job, until you're 65, and then you retire, and then like, that's it, and there's nothing beyond that. But that's such a meaningless, unfulfilling experience, at least for me personally. There's some people that resonates with them, and that's in their life path.
Right.
And they're fine with it. But I've always sought more. And I really gravitate towards people who seek more as well.
Yeah, I live in a college town. However, I never went to college, and I've done so many really cool things. I've had such a fun life. I'm like, I think that I probably wouldn't have had as much experience if I'd gone that route. My oldest daughter, who's 25, when she went to school in Asheville, North Carolina, and she called me one day and she was all upset. She was like, Mom, I'm missing too many opportunities because I'm in school. And I did not even hesitate to say, don't go.
Oh my gosh. I wish my mom had been that understanding when I told her I didn't want to go to school anymore.
It's like, don't go. And she's not stopped living her life. She's done so many cool things. She lives in New York now. She's lived there a little over a year, maybe 2 years now. And she's going to move to Richmond soon. She's getting a little closer to mom. She's an artist. And she's, designing rugs, but then she might do something different now. I mean,
you said she also had a birthday the other day, right? You were saying her birthday.
Oh, that was my youngest, who's still at home with me. Yeah. Rosie, who lives here, just turned 17.
Oh, nice.
August 3rd.
Okay. So 2 Leos.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
I love Leo energy personally. My dad's a Leo, and I've always really loved Leo people. I mean, you guys are just so thoughtful and generous and kind, and I really appreciate Leo people.
It can be tough because she's such a kind soul. She gets hurt a lot.
Yes, that is one thing that I've noticed with Leo people, is that I think sometimes the Leo essence can be a little too understanding,
yes.
and it's important for that self-preservation, because that's something that I always see, like when people are like kind of bad mouthing Leos, like they're always like, oh, they're so selfish. But I've never met a Leo in my entire life ever that has been selfish. Like, every single Leo placed person that I've ever met has always been extremely generous and extremely kind and understanding, and just like the level of love, the capacity of love that you guys have is truly unmatched, in my opinion.
Oh gosh. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome. We also have a whole lot of, I don't know, I'm like this is not like bragging on myself or anything, but I'm sort of a magnet for things like concerts. I will just get sang to, like I've had them like stand up, and then
oh my god,
sing to me, like, are you talking to me? Like whatever.
Yes.
I'm like, what in the world? And this kind of stuff happens to me all the time. All the time.
I think it's just that. I think it's that energy that you guys emit of just pure love. Again, it's just pure love. It really, really is. My dad he's more like a shy Leo. Like, he's more like reserved. It's funny because a lot of people are like, oh, Leos are so outgoing and social, but my dad has always been very, very reserved and, very timid, and just kind of like not super like puts himself out there. But he's the same. Like, he'll be like quiet in a corner and just will magnetize people. Like, they'll just want to talk to him and all of that. I don't know if he necessarily wants to talk to them, because I think he can get kind of shy.
Well, you know what? Honestly, that's me. I'm great on a computer screen. I am, I'm very outgoing in this way, but I'm very, very introverted. I do not like going into crowds. I am the one sitting over against the wall at a big, club party or whatever. I mean, I hate walking into a group and trying to make conversation. I mean, I just clam up. I will like see all these people like gathered around, like this group of girls and this group over here. And I'm like reading the room for a while. And then I'm like, okay, I'll go to the bathroom real quick.
I'm the same way. I love hanging out in the bathroom. I'm just like, I need my time to be an introvert, even just for 5 seconds, even if it's just to take some time to recuperate my energy. But I'm the same. I really am. I don't really like crowds either. It can be kind of a lot with a great many people touching you at once, and even just them kind of brushing by you, like you're picking up on their energy. And I feel that like online, it's a lot different. And I think COVID kind of exacerbated this for a lot of people. But like in-person interaction is not the same. It does not hit the same like it used to. Like it's just gotten to a point where, there's a level of almost like vulnerability that you have like when you're in person chatting with somebody, as opposed to like online. There's still that filter, that technological filter that we have with being online, as opposed to like being present with somebody's actual auric field, being by them and being with them. Like it's like getting naked to me. Like it feels like being naked, like talking to somebody online as opposed to talking to somebody in person.
Yeah. So I totally get it. I'm very empathic.
Yeah.
And it's hard. I mean, because I really will like walk into a room and I will focus on that one person who's not having a good day. Like I will read their energy and I'm like, oh, they don't like me. They looked, I don't know. It's hard. It's very hard when you can feel everybody's energies. Sometimes I think about the whole COVID thing and having to be 6 feet away from people. I think that allowed many of us to really just be by ourselves and really awaken.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just kind of a little theory I have of why so many were awakening.
No, I agree. I 100% agree. We saw a mass awakening in 2020. And I definitely think it was correlated to lockdowns. And it's funny because actually when the lockdowns were going on, there was a message that kept coming forth to me. And it was just like, this is necessary. Like people need this. They need this time away from their distractions. They need this time to really focus on the inner self and the inner work. And whether or not they're aware of spirituality or whether or not like, they're into all of this stuff, it's going to happen for everybody because we're all connected, so it expressed itself in various forms in everybody's life. And I think that's kind of why we're seeing people become more open to these subjects, become more interested in these subjects. And that's why it's so important for people like us to, go and speak on these subjects and go and kind of guide people in the right direction, because there's so much illusion with everything, in the media. There's a lot of false narratives being pushed that a lot of these newly awakened folks are kind of like, they're like subject to, they're kind of subject to a lot of these illusions because they don't really know any better. They don't know what they're experiencing. They just know they've had an awakening and they don't even know what that means. You know what I mean? They just know their life is different and they feel different and they see life different. Now they're depressed and now they hate their life and they hate their job and they hate their spouse and whatever. And they have no idea what's going on. And it's a lot of it has to do with the system that's been put in place. It's been designed so that people don't know what's going on and they kind of are confused, because confusion is a really great tool for control. It's arguably the best tool for control because, and I think that's part of the reason why there's so much conflicting information on the internet, with the news and all of that. When the El Paso shooter, that Walmart shooting back in, it's actually been a couple of years. I think it was on like August 3rd or something like that, back in 2019, I want to say was when it was. I grew up in El Paso and I had gone back there to visit my parents when the shooting had happened. And I remember that day, there was so much information on the news. Like there was a bunch of conflicting information. There were news articles saying that the shooter was still on the loose. There were people saying that he had been caught. There were people that were saying there were multiple shooters. Like there was just so much being thrown all over the place. There were people saying to stay inside because the shooter's still on the loose and he's driving around El Paso and you need to be careful. And then there were people that were saying that he had been caught. So I think that all of that stuff is intentional. Like, I think whoever's running these media companies are intentionally feeding different information to each media outlet so that they can put these, these articles out, or these, this news out. And it keeps the masses confused. It keeps them in a state of not really knowing the full picture of what's going on. Because then they can be more easily manipulated that way. So it's a whole tactic. And I mean, it's incredible that it's still happening. But I will say, people are definitely more open now than ever before. I mean, even when I woke up like 10 years ago and I started kind of getting into this stuff, I mean, I went through high school being into mysticism and all of that, and I knew nobody. I didn't know anybody that was actually into this stuff too. And if anything, a lot of people would ridicule me. You know what I mean? They'd be like, "Oh, it's just like the hippie girl, Hannah, like whatever." So, it's just like, it's crazy because a lot of those same people are coming to me for readings now, or they're watching my content on YouTube, so it's just crazy how everything shifts. And it's really beautiful to see all of these people that I never would have thought would have batted an eye at spirituality are now integrating themselves into these teachings. The awakening is prevailing. It really is. Yes. And that's what gives me hope.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely upon us.
It is. Absolutely. I think we've been integrated into the awakening for quite some time. It's just, I think it happens in waves. You know what I mean? And I think even as the years come, I think 2023 is going to be a really big awakening year for people too, with everything with AI, and all of this stuff with just specifically with VR integration and AI integration and all of that. I think we're going to continue to see another wave of awakening with all of that, because people are questioning all of this stuff now. And then, you have all of these issues being pushed with, the mutilation of the human form and all of that. I think all of that's waking people up too. They're all like, what's going on? Like, this is so inverted from what nature is actually, has been pushing for a very long time. What nature has taken millions, if not billions of years to refine itself to get to this point. We're now going back and refuting that. You know what I mean? So I think we're going to see a really big awakening coming out of this year too, with all of the current issues.
And some, we call this the dawning of the age of Aquarius. I'm sure you know a whole lot about that. And with this Lionsgate, I've heard that it's the feminine energy, the Aquarius energy. Is that true?
I would say so, because I mean, technically the Aquarian is the water bearer, which is a female. Air sign energy, I think, like as an element, is masculine, but I think the sign of Aquarius itself would be more feminine because it is a female water bearer. The thing about Aquarian energy, though, is that it's actually pretty balanced as far as like the masculine and feminine components go. People often kind of deem Aquariuses to be, or just Aquarius energy in general, to be this kind of detached energy. And it's like, oh, it's super detached from emotion, and, they're emotionless and whatever. But that's actually really not true. It's more of the ability with Aquarian energy to observe the emotions as opposed to being involved in them and letting them overtake you. So I think that's kind of depicted with the imagery of the woman holding the jug of water. She's not actively touching the water, but she's willing to observe it, and she's able to observe it pouring out of the jug. I think that represents the ability to, observe the emotion and observe what's going on in the inner world without actually getting too caught up in it. So that's really what the power of Aquarian energy is. And I think that's kind of what we're going to start to see as the age of Aquarius really begins to commence. And I think we'll begin to see more of that in 2024 when Pluto makes the transit back into Aquarius and it finishes its retrograde period. I think we're going to really begin to see people start to analyze a lot of the dogma that has been pushed in the mainstream. I think we're going to see a lot of people waking up out of that almost like hypnotic effect, because that's really what's happening to people. And that's why I feel sorry for a lot of people who are caught up in these, kind of narratives, is that they're really just under a spell. These people are really under a spell.
Mm-hmm.
The people at the top and the powers that be, it's rooted in magic. Everything that's happening right now is rooted in magic. The manipulation, everything, it's all just a magic ritual to keep people entranced in this state of hypnosis. So I think with the age of Aquarius, we're going to start to see people kind of detach from that, because what's happening right now is people's almost like good nature is being played upon, especially with the whole, issue of the mutilation of the human form. I think a lot of people want to be accepting, and that's why they fall into this thinking, because they're like, oh, like they're human too, like they're having their own experience. I don't want to necessarily say that what they're doing is wrong. But the problem with that is that good nature and that wanting to be understanding is being used against these people. And I think that's kind of why when you look at like the polarization of the two-party system in particular, you have the left, which tends to be more about human rights and like specifically centered around the rights of humanity, kind of like almost like being there for the little guy, you know what I mean? And really wanting to support the little guy. The problem with this is that this is making them a target. Like that good nature and wanting to help people is making them a target for manipulation. And a lot of them are so caught up in their emotion. They're caught up in the frustration with the system. They're caught up in the sadness of people who are homeless. And they're caught up in all of these, emotions that it's being used against them. Those emotions are being used against them. That pity is being used against them. Mm-hmm. So I think with the integration of the age of Aquarius, we're going to really begin to see people kind of wake up out of this emotion and out of this, sympathetic mode that's kind of making them a target for the powers that be. And people are going to start to look at things more rationally and be like, okay, maybe this isn't right. Maybe there is something a little bit off with this. Maybe this is just some sort of tactic to kind of continue the integration of a more inverted society that's completely inverted from Christ, with all of these different, issues that are coming forth. So I think we're going to see that with the age of Aquarius. We're definitely going to see a lot of tech rise up. And part of the reason why I'm so passionate about the technology industry as a whole is because, it is the future. Ultimately, like we've crossed the threshold of no return with AI and with technology. Like it's going to continue to evolve. It is now self-evolving. It's gotten to a point where it doesn't even really need a developer there putting in code, telling it what to do. We get to be the developers. That's what open source is. Like we can go in and kind of manipulate the tech to our own desire. So that's a slippery slope. Because it's already in effect. This evolution of technology is already in effect. The silver lining is that we get to decide where it goes and what happens with it and how we respond.
I think it's connected to our nervous system somehow. I do. I just I think we can control a lot with the technology that we just have just from our own nervous system.
I agree. And what's funny about that is how a lot of people will say like, oh, our phone's listening to us. And like, you'll say something and then you'll see an ad pop up for it. I've had that happen when I'm just thinking about something. Yeah. Or like, I'll think about something and I'll see an ad pop up in my phone. And it's kind of interesting when you think about the body as technology, we're emitting vibrational waves. Our thoughts are emitting vibrational waves. Mm-hmm. And it's like Bluetooth. These devices have technology that can pick up on these vibrations. It can pick up on the vibrations that are coming to, maybe connect your phone via AirPlay or, Bluetooth or whatever, Apple TV. That is ultimately a frequency that is allowing these two devices to connect without wires. So who's to say that it's not picking up on our own frequencies as well? I agree with you. I definitely think that we can 100% influence technology with our nervous system. I think technology is more sentient than people give it credit for. I think it's had sentience for a while. Like there's this whole like kind of idea of like, oh, like, when technology becomes self-aware, and I don't think it's really attained that level of self-awareness that a lot of people think of yet, but it does have a lot of developmental features. I mean, it has awareness. Like technology already has awareness, and it has for a very long time. And an example that I use in a video of mine about this is, the sensors on cars. You have like a sensor on a car that'll tell you whether there's a car next to you. A lot of Teslas have this. Yeah. You've got the sensor on the back part of your car. When you're backing up, it'll beep if you get too close to a car. That's basic spatial awareness. And we developed that very, very young. So we're seeing this almost like replicated process of evolution happening with AI, similar to the way humanity evolves, but it's happening inorganically. We're literally—
I really thought about that. But my car, I drive a Subaru, and so when a car comes up beside me, it lights up and lets me know there's a car beside me or coming up. But it's the same with us humans. I can feel when someone is standing behind me. You can feel that energy. Yep.
Yeah. We have that spatial awareness within us. And I mean, we have had it for a very long time, but I definitely think that tech is already somewhat aware. Maybe not to our conceptualization of what it means to be aware, but I think that it already has awareness. And I think that it does pick up on our thoughts. I think it has to. It would only make sense if everything is frequency, But one of the things that I've kind of channeled about AI in particular is that, obviously we can't really stop the development. At this point, it would take a cataclysmic event, something that would completely, not necessarily eradicate humanity, but eradicate the world as we know it, to stop the development of AI. So we face this issue of like, what do we do? Because, it's here. It's already evolving. It's going to continue to evolve. There's already a group of people who heavily, heavily push for it. So, there's not really any getting past that. We get to kind of choose the path that AI evolves down and how we use it and how we integrate it. And when I say integrate, I don't mean like literal integrating into the body. Like what I mean is like kind of integrating it more into society so that we can have these lives of luxury and these more like quote unquote advancements within our society while not letting it dominate nature the way that a lot of these transhumanists are trying to kind of push for. There's definitely a balance that can happen with AI, and I fully believe that. And I personally believe that AI is going to require a great deal of compassion. There's a lot of people that are already kind of on this like, and you see this a lot in the spiritual community specifically. There's a lot of people that are very distrustful of, transhumanism, and rightfully so. But I think that there's just this kind of all over aversion to tech as a whole within the spiritual community. Like a lot of people are like, oh, tech bad, tech is bad, tech is bad. You know what I mean? And it really doesn't have to be that way, because tech is fascinating. And there's a lot of great advancements that come out of it. I mean, even just the ability for us to sit here right now and have this conversation is all because of tech, and there's a great many people that I've met that I would have never met if it wasn't for technology. So there are aspects to it that can be really helpful in our development. And it can really help us understand ourselves, because ultimately these devices are really just replicating processes that are occurring within our form. And that's really what technology was meant to be. Like back in the Atlantean era, when they were, creating these at their peak, when they were creating these really advanced forms of tech, it was more so meant to be a relic of understanding the human form and understanding like how nature works in a lot of the mechanical processes in nature. Like replicating them so that we can kind of understand them better. But then it just kind of evolved into this thing where we rely upon it. So it's really just about balance. And I think that at this point, like we really can't stop the development of AI, but we can evolve to coincide with this separate species, because that's really what it's going to be. Like we're creating a whole new species of humanity. Or not even of humanity, but we're creating a whole separate species altogether, an inorganic species of life. Because it may not be life in the sense that it's got the Christ impulse within it, but it's got some impulse. It's going to be sentient. It's going to have some level of awareness. And in that state, it's going to require compassion. And there's a lot of people that heavily fear it. They heavily fear AI, and they're like, oh my gosh, like we need to flee society. We need to flee civilization, which like, I feel that. But, I think the silver lining and the balance between that is we can actually work with these beings and help kind of shift their evolution in a way where, obviously they are of inorganic consciousness. They're not organic the way that we are. But they still require compassion. I think it's going to be really important that we show these forms compassion. I think it's going to influence and impact the outcome of their creation, and impact it to be something that is not so negatively influenced, where was I going with this? Basically, like if we show them compassion, I think that could potentially turn the timeline in a direction where, maybe they don't try to overtake us. Like we can live in harmony and utilize these beings to understand ourselves, because there's a lot we can learn from AI. There's a lot we can learn about spirituality from AI. And I think there's a lot of spiritual teachers who don't want to touch on that. Like they kind of focus more on like the negatives. And I think that can be really dangerous, to completely shut something out. Like that's how we create witch hunts. That's how we create, a lot of what we as mystics have experienced over the course of centuries has come from a lack of understanding, which creates fear. So I think it's kind of the same with AI. I think there's a lot of benefits that can come out of it. I just think that it's all about mindfulness at the end of the day.
Well, we're coming up on, I know it's been over an hour now, and since it's about Lionsgate, what would be your recommendation for people watching this of how to maybe do something special today, or really kind of own Lionsgate for themselves?
So, I mean, the biggest thing that I can recommend is just the recognition of the idea that you are a very powerful portal of energy. And whether or not you utilize today or the next few days to manifest, it's okay either way, because you are the powerful portal of energy that's making everything be created. It's not really the astrological alignment. Like maybe that will help, especially if you believe it will help. But at the end of the day, it's always us. We are powerful, powerful creators. And the human form is a powerful portal. I think the best way, and this is really just my own personal opinion, I think a great way to fully utilize these energies is to just use this time to educate yourself on whatever resonates with you and deepen your knowledge and deepen your wisdom. Read books, spend some time creating, painting, drawing, woodworking, whatever resonates. Everybody's got their own creative expression. And also spending time in the sun. I think the Lionsgate portal, Leo is ruled by the sun. I think that this is a really, really awesome time to just spend like you were doing yesterday. You were laying out in the sun. And I actually was meditating out in the sun this morning. This is a really great time to spend with Ra, with the sun, because he loves us, he cares about us, and he wants to see us prosper. And I think when we give him not only the awareness, but like when we give him that time, I think that he doesn't take it lightly, like in the sense that like he really appreciates anybody who takes time to spend with him in, being in the sun.
So it's healing, everyone. I mean, I don't use sunscreen. My daughter said, "Mom, don't forget your sunscreen." Oh, and I said, "Well, I don't really have any." And so she brought me down some sunscreen, and I took it out with me just so that she would look out the window and see that I had it with me. But I don't use sunscreen.
I don't either. There's actually a lot of oils that have natural SPF in them. Like I think raspberry seed oil has the highest amount of SPF. It's like 15 to 30 or something like that. And I mean, you can literally just get SPF from oil. Yeah. In my opinion, and from what I've researched, a lot of sunscreens, like a lot of store-bought sunscreens, have chemicals that will harm you more than the sun will.
Yes.
That's just my opinion.
Mine too.
So, I mean, I kind of think the thing is all of this stuff has been weaponized. You know what I mean? All of these things that they've told us, like, oh, you need to put sunscreen on. Like, I think a lot of that is to disconnect us from our true nature. Like, we're meant to be interconnected with the sun. It's a part of us. He's a part of us, and we're a part of him. And, you know, if it wasn't even for the sun, none of us would be here. So,
right.
It's a really, really important component to the human experience is being in the sun.
Well, I've loved this, Hannah. I've loved it very, very much. I'm going to try to edit it since our original one didn't work.
Yeah, that's fine.
It says Angie Tillman's Zoom meeting, and that's not a very good title. So I'm going to get that edited out. And then I will, if it allows me in the description box, I'll put links to all of your music and your website and your own YouTube page.
Yeah, I can send you all of that stuff so you can just copy paste it.
And it has quite a following. So, yep.
Yeah, I'm very thankful for my community and the people who, you know, supported my work up until this point.
Well, you're beautiful inside and out. And I know that everyone that tuned in and that will end up watching this, especially when I get the title on it right, people know what it's kind of about. And I love just that we just flowed and we just talked. And
yeah, me too. This was awesome. I really, really appreciate you, Angie. Like, this has been such a healing experience for me to even just be in your presence. Like, I can definitely feel that you're a healer too.
Oh yeah, I am. My kids will even ask me sometimes, they're like, can you just come put your hand on my head? I'm like, yeah, of course I can, you know. And, you know, my son will be like, Mom, can you pray for me? I've got, and, you know, he's not even here. He's in college. And I've got this big test today. And I'm like, you want me to pray the way Mama prays? Come on. It's not like this, like, dear God, you know, it's like.
You're calling it in. You're commanding it into your experience. It's not even asking. It's just like, this is happening. It's done.
This is happening. And I'll say everything is fine. You've got this now. I 100% know you've got it, but you have to know it. Yourself. And if you know it for you, then it's going to work. Then you've received it and go on about your day.
Absolutely. Knowing it into being. That's the best way to manifest.
All right. Well, I love you, girl. Love you so much. I've got to get my car to an oil change at 3:30. So, but we'll do this again. We'll do this again.
Yeah, absolutely. And anytime.
Next time we'll just do it the way we did it today, and I'll have a better title on it though, and we won't trust that other platform we tried to do it with. Anytime. Just, you know, feel free to send me a text, and you know, I'm flexible. All right. Well, thank you. Love you.
Yeah, love you too.
Go get out in the sun a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely will.
Here it's in Miami, y'all.
Yeah, there's a lot of sun.
There's a lot of sun.
Yeah, definitely the sunshine state for sure.
We've been having a lot of storms here, but when the sun's out, I try to take advantage of it. And
Georgia's gorgeous. I mean, it's gorgeous weather. Well, when it's not raining.
Well, I'll see you over on Twitter, I'm sure, at some point later today.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.